All right, we're live. Hi, everyone. My name is Stacey Adelman, and I'm a registered psychologist and owner of Joshua Tree Learning Center here in Regina, Saskatchewan. And we go live every Tuesday at 12. I always say around 12 because sometimes things pop up and we're a little bit late. And so today we are back beginning Tuesdays at 12. And our topic today that we wanted to talk about is beyond loss, specifically talking about perinatal loss. So I've invited our clinician Tiara Hogberg to join us, as this is an area of focus and of interest for Tiara. Tiara has a master's degree in social work and has been working at Joshua Tree for over a year now, and has done quite a bit of work in this area. So I really wanted to introduce you to Tiara. And so, Tiara, to kind of kick things off a little bit today, can you please tell us what is a definition of perinatal loss? Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So, hi everybody. Excited to be here today. I know it's a vulnerable and difficult topic, but I think the more we talk about this area, the more we can provide support for this population. So, perinatal loss it's very different than other grief. So, perinatal loss is when a pregnancy unexpectedly ends in a miscarriage or a baby unexpectedly dies before or after delivery. It's different, like I mentioned, than other losses or deaths in that it involves the relinquishment of your plans, your hopes, your dreams for your future, and as well as the disruption of love and attachment bonds shared between the parents of the expected baby. And actually about 10 to 15% of pregnancies end in a miscarriage or loss. It is more common than I think we often think, or that it's just often not as talked about. So we're hoping to kind of let go of that disenfranchised grief, which is when people don't acknowledge our loss or our grief. So it's different than anticipatory grief, which is when, say, somebody has a terminal illness. So often with perinatal loss, there can be a little bit of isolation because of that disenfranchised grief.
Okay. And that's one of the reasons we really wanted to talk about it today, because at Joshua Tree, we do a lot of work with grief and loss. And, there's just so many different kinds of grief. And I think we have to acknowledge that grief looks very, very different in many different situations. So, what are some of the obstacles to grief for parents? Grieving the death or going through a perinatal loss? What are obstacles they might face in the grieving process?
So I think just as I had mentioned earlier, a loss of a baby, of one's futures, hopes, and dreams, is quite devastating and can be difficult to manage on one's own. Perinatal loss is extremely painful and it's often overwhelming. It can be very important for individuals to express and seek support as needed when they might be experiencing a perinatal loss. So some common grief reactions that we often see with perinatal loss. Um, we experience some physical, emotional, spiritual, and also cognitive and social changes. Being cognizant of social changes, such as it might be a little bit more sensitive, or we might be a little more vulnerable being around friends and family who just had a baby. We might be more vulnerable around individuals who are pregnant when we see people posting on social media these days about expecting a baby. So
Mhm.
those experiences, as well as anniversaries. So anniversaries of the date of the loss, anniversaries of the baby's birthday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, all those milestones that we might have perceived and had those futures and hopes and dreams for that. So, you
I would
know,
think, Vera, too, one of the things that comes to mind for me is that I would think it would be very lonely or very isolating because many times a lot of individuals don't know that a loss has occurred. It's so private. We may have not have shared that we've been pregnant, right, with many people. And so there may have been a pregnancy and a loss, and many family and friends may not even be aware that that has occurred. Is that correct?
yeah. So we talk about the elephant in the room. So, I mean, it is up to individuals to, I guess, depending on their social supports and also religious and cultural beliefs, that they might choose to disclose this loss or not.
Mhm.
And so we do see, yes, some isolation, some helplessness, some guilt, some shame. Blaming, we see that a lot too. And so when we
Mhm.
can create the support groups and those, the social support around these related experiences, it gives these individuals some empowerment, some hope for the future as well, which is neat to kind of see them support one another. um, but yes, you're right. Also, our families don't always know what to say. um,
Yeah.
so, I think some tips, there's a common thought of, oh, at least you got pregnant, at least you can have a baby. You weren't that far along. Those kind of comments aren't helpful. And sometimes when we are in the grieving process, it's hard to maybe set that boundary with a friend, with a family member, with even a healthcare professional. I mean, our definition of loss can be different, I think, for everybody. And we don't want to put any time frame on that connection and that attachment to when an individual does find out that they're expecting a baby.
So, what are some things people could say to support an individual experiencing that loss?
We often say silence can be powerful. Just listening, talking about the baby, if having a transparent and open conversation about that. Like, some people just are shy. They don't know how to kind of open up that conversation, or they think that that might be too emotional to bring up at that time. But often, we want to tell our stories. We want to talk about our lost babies, and it can actually be pretty healing to do that. So, I think just being there, listening, and telling them that this is really hard. I'm so sorry. Can be pretty validating, just validating their feelings and emotions. And sometimes even the simplest thing as, hey, can I pick up supper tonight? Can I, maybe not even telling somebody, but dropping off some
Yeah.
items, some helpful things, because during our grieving process, sometimes we're not really taking care of ourselves the way we should be.
Okay. What are, I think our healthcare professionals have a really big role here and can really help influence or support an individual who is experiencing this loss. What are some things healthcare professionals can do to help parents who are in this kind of bereavement?
Providing that compassionate care, being cognizant of our language. If a patient is speaking about the baby, as if they're using the term baby, if they're using if they're using a name, being cognizant and just acknowledging their vocabulary about the loss, I think is pretty helpful. Um, like I mentioned before, just supporting that. Sometimes silence is key, providing resources, letting them know about bereavement care, bereavement support groups in I guess depending on where we're living. Um, and sometimes in that moment of shock and grief, it's just being there.
Okay. Okay, so this is an area that we really wanted to provide a lot of support for here at Joshua Tree. And so we've created a retreat for parents who are experiencing perinatal loss. So, Tiara, can you tell us a little bit about the retreat and what will be offered?
Yeah, so we are offering a 1 day retreat on Sunday, September 22nd from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Lunch, snacks, and supper will be provided. And so it is going to be a healing approach using art therapy, yoga, mindfulness activities, and some equine therapy. This will be held at Beaver Creek Ranch, which is just outside of Lumsden. It's our hope to provide an inclusive and welcoming space for bereaved parents to process their grief. Um, Depending on interest, I'm also hoping to begin providing a monthly support group that could be virtual, that could be in person at Joshua Tree. I've also thought about the idea of having a kind of a nature-based therapy with this group and meeting at a specific location and walking for 45 minutes or whatever that might look like. And so the retreat is really just about your grief, your time to process that grief, and focusing on self care and self compassion during, I think, the grieving process.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think when we talk about grief, we need to honor it, and so when you set aside a day for it, uh, that's a way to honor those feelings. I think it's also important to connect because grief can be so isolating that we can really go into ourselves. And I think it's important that we maintain connection with other people, particularly with other people who get it, and then to continue that connection after the retreat rather than the day just ending. So I'm really excited about what is being planned for that day and what opportunities will kind of springboard from that as well.
I think it's a time to give the bereaved parents permission to grieve and process that, and it's also a way of staying connected to our babies in heaven. So
Absolutely. So if you're interested in being a part of the retreat, we still have openings available. You can contact Joshua Tree at 306-546-5674, or you can also email us at reception@joshuatreelearning.com. We have a wonderful intake coordinator, Romina, who will help you get everything set up. And I'd like to also acknowledge at this time that Caring Heart Saskatchewan has recognized the importance of this and are providing financial assistance to be able to support this camp. And so I want to thank Caring Heart Saskatchewan for offering that support and recognizing it as something important to contribute to. So, like I said, we've got openings available. If you're not able to make the retreat, but would still like to be a part of Tiara's group afterwards, where you can join others who are also experiencing this loss, please contact us and we will definitely get that group put together for you. We would love to support you in that way. Any closing thoughts, Tiara, before we sign off for today?
I just wanted to mention that the retreat should be covered by most insurances as well. So you can always submit that afterwards. And just I'm hoping that you guys are hoping to give yourself that time and permission to honor and acknowledge your grief. And it would be a blessing to experience that retreat with you guys.
Wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining us on Tuesdays at 12, and we'll be back again next week as well. And thank you for your time, Tiara. Take care, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.